all. This is Dr. Dave Maslach talking about reciprocity.com, the sharing economy proofreading platform that I am trying to build. And in this particular video, I'm going to talk about tinkering and hobbies and how that they are a basis for new businesses and actually entire new industries. And this is all part of my Startup and Small Business Saturday series that I am currently putting out on YouTube. And what I'm going to go into this particular video is I'm going to go through and talk to you exactly what I mean by hobbies and tinkering and why that's so important, and then get into how that actually can develop into new businesses, and then finally go into what you can do about it and what are some things that you can actually do about it. So this is actually it's all based on Eric von Hippel's new book. So he's a professor. He's been around for a long, long time. He's a professor at MIT, and he studies innovation. In fact, he studies user innovation. He's been doing that for a very long time. User innovation, he's probably been studying, since the mid-70s now. So what is that? That's 30 years he's been studying innovation and looking at how innovation actually occurs. And this book is called Free Innovation. In fact, you could go read it if you want. It's all available online. It's called Free Innovation. Really good book, super interesting. Talks all about how innovation actually occurs and how we often think that innovation is really done by these large, big businesses, by these big corporations that government agencies. You think of NASA, you think of what else is there? There's NASA, there is DARPA. You think of all these different government agencies. You think of all these really big things, right? That they do all of the innovation that's out there. In fact, what he shows in this book is that it's not true. It's absolutely not true. And what he gets into, or what they show, there's a bunch of colleagues. It's actually a fairly substantial research program that's been going on. He's got colleagues all over the U.S. and Europe as well that are working on this idea, that they've been working on it for a long time. And what they show, and in fact, it is the basis for a large portion of innovation that we often forget about, and the basis for entrepreneurship and new ventures that we often forget about, is actually, get ready for it, it is tinkering and hobbies. These are just kind of messing around in the garage, messing around in the backyard, messing around in your kitchen, doing things that you think are interesting, right? Or you're just kind of playing around and doing things that for whatever reason, you don't necessarily have any reason to do it, right? Think of the website Etsy, right? So the website Etsy is usually how these things get formed, is that somebody is doing something and they are loving what they're doing, right? And then they're doing some sort of craft. Then once this craft they start sort of building it, and they have this particular craft. People start coming over and visiting their house, and they start saying, wow, this is really interesting. This is a great little hobby you got. Maybe you should put it on Etsy. So people put it on Etsy, and then pretty soon other people really like that particular thing, and they start selling it more and more and more. There's all sorts of examples like this. For the next little example, you should make sure that you don't let your kids watch it. So this is all about the little Christmas elf that was created. I believe it was a couple of. It was a family in, I want to say, Tennessee. I might be wrong. And they had a family tradition with the Christmas elf, that they put out this Christmas elf beforehand. Before Christmas got there, and they would hide the little Christmas elf, and then they created this whole tradition. And what they soon found out is that actually lots of people liked that idea, and they started selling the Christmas elf. And then pretty soon it became this big thing, and now it's this huge. It's a tradition, right? That my family does. It's a great little tradition. It's a lot of fun. So I don't want to say that too loud and give you too many details, because my my kids are in the next room, so I don't want to actually talk about this kind of stuff too much. But so anyways, you can go look at the some of the story behind that's really interesting. So basically what I'm getting at is hobbies and tinkering. This is where you just do things for fun and learning, that you do things that you're just helping others. You have a particular problem that you are personally trying to solve, and you just mess around with that. There's no other reason to do those particular things. It's a hobby. Most people, and in fact, the bookstore points out that most people might spend like a week of their time a year. The people that are innovating, and it's like 5 to 10% of the population that are innovating and doing things and creating things that they haven't created before. It's 5% of the population that has actually created something. And then they're spending, maybe a week of their time, maybe even more. They're spending up to like $1,000 of their own money. This is on average, right? So that's a lot of money. That's a significant portion of time. And this was across, they did, surveys of different countries, and that's across 6 different countries. I think it was like the UK, Canada, the US, South Korea, Finland, and one more that I'm blanking on. But anyways, it was across 6 different countries. And they showed that, there's a lot of this going on. It's just people kind of messing around and playing around in their household and creating these new innovations, right? So that's the cool thing. And then business forms by when these new innovations actually start creating, they start creating a little bit of demand, that people see that particular thing and they're like, this is really interesting. And then it sort of spreads to peers and stuff like that. And then they start producing, maybe they produce 1 or 2 at the beginning. That hobby turns into, selling 1 or 2 things. And then pretty soon it blossoms into something much more bigger. And what's really cool is that lowers the barriers and the belief that, that you have to be this big corporation, you have to be a large thing to actually do anything that's innovative or entrepreneurial. It really lowers the barriers to that and the belief behind that. And that's actually really why I love this research program. It's because it's so simple. It's so just, anybody could do it. It's the easiest thing around, right? You just get out there and start tinkering, and you start telling people about it. So here's the thing that he points out, and this is the thing that there's actually a little bit of research that they've done in this area, and there's actually what's called a market failure. And the market failure occurs when basically there's there's people that really want something, but they can't get it. So somebody actually has a solution to it. So these people that are tinkering, right, in their backyard or in their kitchen, they're tinkering and making things. They have a really great solution, but they often have very little incentive to tell other people about this particular thing, so it doesn't spread. So a large company is going to market and push that particular thing and get that word out there, right? So the trick, the market failures, is the sort of getting the word, the information, the making that particular innovation diffuse that it was created. And that's where there's so many more innovations that are out there that actually lots of people can use and really helpful, but we don't know about them. So here's the thing, what can you do? And I think this is the big takeaway from reading this book, is what you can actually do is when you build something, and I encourage you to start tinkering and messing around with things and be part of the sort of maker culture of getting out there and just playing, creating new innovative things, thinking about, I just want to do something. I want to maybe create a new knitting project, right? I want to create new knitting needles that fit better. I want to, I'm a great cook. So, and I think of these new different utensils that we could possibly use. Just get out there and do stuff and make things and just play around, have fun. That's what your goal should be. But then when you do that, and when you're playing around and having fun and doing all that kind of stuff, just start telling people about it. I mean, that's it. So we have actually, I think the biggest thing is we have sort of a cognitive dissonance, and this is where I'm veering away a little bit from what Eric von Hippel points out. But, we have this cognitive dissonance of telling people. We are really uncertain about telling people about things that we've done and things that we're creating. We're really shy about it, right? We don't want we don't want to look foolish in any sort of way, so we don't tell people about that. But the problem is that lots of people can use this thing, right? You just get out there and do things like, maybe do a blog, for instance. Yes, people are going to laugh, right? They're going to think that you're silly and what the heck are you doing and all that kind of stuff. That's going to happen. Get out there and do YouTube videos like this. People are going to think that it's the most silliest thing around, and that it's kind of pointless and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to actually talk about, in my next video, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to get a little bit real about it. So anyways, they're going to talk about like how silly these things are. But you know what? There's 7 billion people on this earth. Not everybody speaks English. Not everybody speaks the language that you are speaking. But there are 7 billion people out there. And those 7 billion people, one of them or two of them are going to say, hey, that's a really interesting idea. I want to help out. I want to participate in any sort of way that I would like to. And that's how things get started, right? It doesn't start, normally things don't start sort of as a, they don't start they don't start really big. They start really small, and they start to a kind of a niche audience for those of you who are in the US. I'm Canadian, so I say niche. So you're in a niche audience. You have to find that niche audience wherever it is and start messing around, playing around, documenting the process of whatever you're doing, even though that it's going to be terrible and not everybody's going to like it, and you're going to have all of these sort of emotions and stuff like that. But just get out there and do that. Have fun. Make it a really fun experience. Document what you're doing, and yes, it might grow. And if it grows, that's great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. That's okay, right? That if that particular thing doesn't grow, that's totally fine. And that's what you have to do, is get out there and just start messing around. And, if you have any sort of goals to create something, just get out there and document as you're creating. And it's going to be helpful to at least some people out there, maybe not everybody, but some people, and they're going to like it, right? And they're going to hopefully join your tribe and participate in some sort of way. So that's all I really wanted to say. Know that this was a bit of a ramble, and I thought this was really cool to point out. I read this book, and I'm like, that's really interesting stuff that he and his colleagues, again, many different colleagues out there, that Carlise Baldwin, for example, at Harvard, Sonali Shah, I think she's at Illinois at this moment. There's a bunch that have done work in this area that just show how cool this is, that people are just messing around. So again, people just mess around, and eventually that messing around turns into something, and people start selling it, right? So it starts off with selling 1 or 2, 3, and then maybe eventually you work up to selling 100 of that particular thing. And then you have a business at that point, right? That's how things get started. It's just messing around. It's a great paper, actually, if you want to look at how this started, in the whitewater kayaking industry. There's a couple of papers on that Eric von Hippel had written on, and it was just hobbyists, people messing around, that started that entire industry and evolved that entire industry, and it went through many stages. It wasn't this big grand producer, this big grand manufacturer doing all this innovative novel stuff. It was just people messing around. The mountain biking industry is another one. There's another great paper written about that. It was just people messing around creating things, and that's it. It's just people messing around. That's how things get started. The key is making sure that you tell people and getting the word out, getting the information out. So doing YouTube videos, doing blogs, telling your neighbors and friends, and just kind of messing around. That's it. It's really easy. Who knows? It might start into you might be starting a business. You might be creating an entire new industry. Who knows, right? So that's what I wanted to point out. So if you like these videos, make sure you do subscribe. If you like this particular video, do the old thumbs up. You can do the if you didn't as well, that's fine. Make sure that you watch some of the older ones. I do put a lot of stuff out there, especially the Startup and Small Business Saturday stuff. Talking all about the efforts that you'd go through as creating something new, right? And creating a startup or, doing small business is really important. But professor of innovation, strategy, and entrepreneurship. So I'm trying to help you out in any sort of way. If you want to take a look at the Reciprocity project, it is it's reciprocity.com. The E is spelled with a 3. You can look at it and see if it's going to be helpful for you. You can look at some of the older videos, see if that's going to be helpful for you. It's a sharing economy proofreading platform that I am trying to build. So that's it. Take care. Have a good day. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye.